Before COVID-19, I'm sure most of us have never heard of an occupational hygienist. But certainly under COVID-19, the role of an occupational hygienist becomes much, much more important. We're welcoming from the Workplace Safety and Protection Association, Kelly Fernandes, who is an occupational hygienist and a consultant with the organization. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you for having me.
So first off, tell me what an occupational hygienist did before COVID-19 versus what you do now.
Well, essentially, we recognize the hazards, assess them, and provide recommendations for control. So with respect to occupational hygiene, that could be an exposure assessment to a chemical or biological agent, such as COVID-19. But it could also be noise assessments, radiation assessments, anything to do with exposure to a worker and how to mitigate those risks.
Would your role prior to COVID-19 be almost responding to more emergencies rather than creating these general guidelines that we're getting used to right now?
WSPS, so we stand for Workplace Safety and Prevention Services. Our mandate is prevention. As an occupational hygienist within this organization, we want to prevent workers from getting illnesses or injuries, right? Like just as you and your viewers want your friends and family to come home safe at the end of the day, that's what we want for the workers of Ontario.
This post-pandemic playbook that has just been released last week, what is that all about? These are guidelines for businesses to follow in a general sense?
Yeah, so WSPS services the manufacturing, agricultural, and service sector as a health and safety association, and therefore our guidelines in that book, in our playbook, lay out the different aspects employers and workers want to look for in order to recognize, assess, control, and evaluate the hazards and risks associated with COVID-19.
WSPS is a not-for-profit, partially funded by the Ministry of Labor. Did you work with the Ministry of Labor to create these guidelines?
Yeah, so WSPS and the Ministry of Labor work together closely. So the Ministry of Labor, actually, their full name is the Ministry of Labor Training and Skills Development, but we still all say Ministry of Labor. And essentially, we work together to create different guidelines. So, for example, we have sector-specific, as well as job aids that provide specific guidelines for workers and employers to use. And that helped guide our playbook as well. As more of the guidelines, I would say, are more specific, where the playbook is an overall approach that an organization can take to help minimize those risks.
We're looking at hygiene from a standpoint in every single aspect of society for the very first time, really, in our lives. As a layperson who's not an occupational hygienist, I mean, everywhere I go, I'm assessing the hygiene of that place. So your job must be extremely important right now for society as a whole.
Yeah, I think we were always important, but maybe like you said, not everyone knew maybe what an occupational hygienist did, or even what health and safety professionals did on a day-to-day basis. But like you said, you're becoming quite aware of assessing the risks and the controls that are put in place, such as physical distancing or proper hand hygiene, to help mitigate those risks. So essentially, you're becoming a hygienist yourself.
When you look at what's in that post-pandemic playbook, do you look at some of the guidelines and suggestions and think, well, yeah, that one there, that one's going to be permanent. That one's, we've added this as a guideline to businesses in general. That's never going away now. It's something that wasn't there before, and now it's going to be there permanently. How much of that playbook do you think will be permanent as we move forward out of COVID-19?
Yeah, you know what? It's such a fluid situation that I don't think any organization can actually say, okay, we're going to be doing this forever. Obviously, we listen to the experts and we implement the controls and guidelines as such. So as you know, with science, So when we first started at the beginning of this pandemic, and all the information that has come out that we know now, that will continue. And so there will be other guidelines and other adjustments to make. That's why it's so important for all of us, especially organizations, to stay on top of those public health alerts and to adjust accordingly.
Thank you for your time today, Kelly. It's very interesting, again, because as I say, it's something that we didn't know a lot about before COVID-19, and now it's front and center. So thanks again for your time. And that post-pandemic playbook, where can businesses, the general public access it?
Yeah, so you can access it on our website. So we have a microsite for COVID-19 specific resources. So that is covid19.wsps.ca, or you can go to our general website at wsps.ca.